Welcome to this chapter explainer. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the absolutely fascinating world of social psychology. We're going to break down attitude and social cognition to figure out exactly why we do what we do when we're around others. It's all about understanding how our internal mental states shape our outward physical reality. Okay, let's dive right in with a quick mental exercise straight from the text. Think for just a second, how many times today did you actually say the words, in my opinion, to yourself or to somebody else? In my opinion, this coffee is completely cold, or I feel like. We literally fill in these blanks all day long, right? But to really understand our social behavior, we have to go way beyond just common sense.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're covering 1. What are attitudes? 2. The ABC components. 3. Cognitive dissonance and change. 4. Do attitudes predict behavior? And finally, 5. Prejudice and discrimination.
All right, section 1, what are attitudes? Let's start with the absolute basics. What actually makes a simple opinion graduate into a full-blown attitude? Well, the crucial difference here is that attitudes go way beyond your everyday casual thoughts. I mean, if someone disagrees with a minor opinion of yours, you probably don't care, right? But if they challenge your views on a deeply important topic and you get fired up and emotional, or if those views actually dictate your physical actions, that is an attitude. It packs an emotional punch and it actively drives your real-world actions. Moving on to section 2, the ABC components. Every single attitude is built on a very specific psychological structure, what experts call the ABC components. Think of it like the actual ABCs of how you process your worldview. So A stands for affective, that's the emotional part. B is for behavioral, which is your action tendency, and C is cognitive, the actual thought or belief. So for example, believing that protecting the environment is important, that's cognitive. Loving nature, that's affective. And actually going out and physically planting trees, that is behavioral. It's a complete package. And knowing this brilliantly illustrates how we actually measure these attitudes in psychology. We look at two main things, valence and extremeness. Valence essentially tells us the direction. So is your attitude positive or negative? Extremeness, on the other hand, measures how far in that direction you actually go. If you're looking at a 1 to 5 scale, a 1 is just as extreme as a 5, just in the complete opposite direction. Meanwhile, a 3 sits right there in the neutral middle, totally lacking that strong positive or negative valence. Okay, section 3, cognitive dissonance and change. Now, what happens when our internal ABCs clash with each other? Well, you get cognitive dissonance. This is basically the psychological equivalent of a massive mental traffic jam. It's that highly uncomfortable feeling when your thoughts are, quite literally, out of tune with your actions. You believe one thing in your head, but your physical reality says another, and it creates this state of deep, uncomfortable internal inconsistency. Let me give you a real-world example. Take the habit of eating something famously unhealthy, like pan masala. If you know for a fact it causes severe health problems, we'll call that cognition I, but you go ahead and eat it anyway, cognition 2, you are going to experience dissonance. Your brain absolutely hates this imbalance. To fix it and achieve what we call consonance, you logically have to do one of two things. You either convince yourself it's not actually that unhealthy, or you take the logical route and change your behavior to stop eating it entirely. To really see this in action, we have to talk about the famous Festinger and Carl Smith experiment. It's a classic. So college students were paid to lie and tell other people that a brutally boring experiment was actually super interesting. The students who were paid a healthy sum of $20, they had a great external reason to lie, the money. So their internal attitude didn't change at all. But get this, the students who were paid only $1 experienced major dissonance. To justify lying for such a tiny, insignificant amount, they actually convinced themselves that they liked the experiment. They changed their internal attitude to match their outward behavior. Crazy, right?
And you know who knows all about this? Advertisers. They exploit our need for internal balance all the time to trigger an attitude change. Think about a laptop ad that claims its massive storage capacity is your literal key to success. By linking a simple, boring piece of hardware to your deep internal desire to succeed, the ad activates a specific motive. They are intentionally trying to shift your attitude and push you to buy the product.
Which brings us to section 4. Do attitudes predict behavior? Here is a major curveball for you. Do these internal attitudes actually predict how we behave in the real world? Surprisingly, no, not always. While we expect humans to be logical, The text highlights that our physical actions can completely contradict our deeply held internal attitudes. This was famously proven in Richard Lapierre's classic study. Hotel managers claimed on paper questionnaires that they would refuse service to a Chinese couple due to prejudice. Yet, when the couple actually showed up in person, the managers accommodated them anyway. Their real-world behavior completely contradicted their stated attitude on paper. Because behavior and attitude misalign so often, the actual medium you use to try and persuade people matters immensely. For instance, consider a summer public health message like, ORS will protect your child from heat. Does this actually change behavior better if you put it in a TV commercial or if you have a face-to-face conversation? The text asks us to really think about this because understanding this attitude-behavior gap is literally the only way to get people to take real, meaningful action. Finally, let's move to Section 5, Prejudice and Discrimination. Now we are stepping out from the individual level and looking at the massive societal level, examining the absolute darkest sides of human attitudes. Remember our ABCs from earlier? We have to apply them here to carefully separate two terms that people constantly mix up. Prejudice is primarily the affective component. It's the emotional dislike, or even hatred, toward a particular group. Discrimination, on the flip side, is the behavioral component. It is when that internal, emotional hatred gets translated into actual physical action, leading people to behave in a harmful way towards a target group. The text gives us a very stark reminder of the extreme, tragic consequences of unchecked prejudice. The genocide committed by the Nazis in Germany against Jewish people stands as a horrific historical example of how internal prejudice can snowball into mass discrimination, resulting in the killing of millions of innocent people. Understanding social psychology isn't just some abstract academic exercise, folks. It is absolutely crucial for human survival. Fortunately, social psychologists do offer proven strategies to handle and dismantle this prejudice. First, we have to ensure that interacting groups share equal power and status, because inequality is a massive breeding ground for prejudice. Second, we need to highlight individual human identity rather than broad group labels. When you force yourself to see someone as a complex, unique individual rather than just a representative of an outgroup, the foundation for these dangerous intergroup conflicts is completely weakened. To wrap up our chapter explainer today, I really want you to reflect on your own ABCs and challenge yourself with this lingering question. Knowing exactly how attitudes are formed, what is one prejudice or assumption you might secretly hold, and how might it be subconsciously shaping your everyday behavior? Something to think about. Thank you so much for exploring the mechanics of the human mind with me today. Keep asking questions and keep learning.